President Donald J. Trump just issued one of the most direct ultimatums to Congress, which is causing mass panic on Capitol Hill. Because after months of demanding that Congress pass the Save America Act, the same bill that will prevent illegal immigrants from voting in our elections, both Democrats and Republicans have tried to block that bill, which is why the president is now demanding that Congress pass that bill immediately, or else he'll be blocking everything coming out of Congress, basically rendering Congress useless. Welcome, my name is Shane, and this is the Shane Earl Show. If you want daily reporting on what's going on in America without bias, please consider subscribing. Let us get into it, starting with this video explaining this move by Trump and where this bill currently stands. Let's get into it.
President Donald Trump over the weekend threatened to hold up all legislation on Capitol Hill until Congress passes the SAVE Act. That is a GOP-led election security bill that many Democrats say will disenfranchise American voters.
So the reason why the president is making this move is because this is something that he promised the American people while he was campaigning in 2024. Not only that, this is a popular legislation among the American people, where over 90% of Americans actually supports this legislation, because it ensures election integrity and ensures only citizens are voting in our elections. And here we have that Truth Social post that explains this move by him to block everything that's coming out of Congress. The Save America Act must be done immediately. It supersedes everything else, must go to the front of the line. I, as president, will not sign other bills until this is passed, and not the watered down version. And here we have another Truth Social post that explains exactly what is inside this bill. And it says, 1, all voters must show voter ID. 2, all voters must show proof of citizenship in order to vote. 3, no mail-in ballots except for illnesses, disabilities, military service, or travel. 4, no men in women's sports. 5, and I think this is the most important one, no transgender surgeries for children. And the president made this post because we know Democrats, they're going to come out and they're going to lie about this bill. And here we have the president actually speaking on these 5 things that are in this bill. Take a look.
So those 5 things, voter ID, citizenship, mail-in ballots, no mail-in ballots, right? We don't want men playing in women's sports. That's got to be about close to 100%. We don't want men playing in women's sports, and no transgender mutilation of our children. Now, that should be the easiest thing to get past that you've ever had.
So I do agree with the president. This should be one of the easiest things for Congress to pass because these are common sense policies. But what we know is that Democrats, they're going to oppose the president every step of the way. So it is on the Republicans for them to actually start doing the work of the American people. But we all know that the Uniparty rules Washington. Basically, the Democrats and the Republicans, they're up to the same thing privately, but in public, they speak a different language, which is why this bill hasn't been passed or even on the Senate floor for a vote, which I'm going to get into later. And here we have Chuck Schumer, right after the president announced that he'll be blocking everything coming out of Congress. Take a look at his response.
Until the SAVE Act passes. That means the president's asking for total gridlock. The SAVE Act will not pass because it is such a pernicious, nasty piece of legislation. The SAVE Act is Jim Crow 2.0. More than 20 million people would lose their right to vote. And you would need to register either a passport or your original birth certificate. How many people have that? How many people have that? It would eliminate vote by mail. He would purge the voter rolls using an AI system set up by Musk and Doge.
My question to Chuck Schumer is, how are 20 million people going to lose their right to vote? Are they not American citizens? Because if they're citizens, then they're still going to have their right to vote, unless he's talking about illegal immigrants. And this is not Jim Crow 2.0. These are just talking points by the Democrats, by Chuck Schumer, because they cannot show how 20 million people are going to lose their right to vote. And here we have President Trump responding to Chuck Schumer, who's planning to block the Save America Act. Take a look at this.
It's called the Save America Act. And I saw Schumer yesterday. We will stop Save America. He's getting killed. They can't do it. And then the things within the Save America are so good. But just the title. So we had that with MAGA. Greatest name of all time. Make America Great Again. MAGA. It just worked. I can't.
Sometimes I really do wonder if these Democrats actually care about the American people, because I don't see how it's controversial to require to prove that you're a citizen in order to vote. Why is it so difficult to give the American people what they're asking for, which is election integrity? And the Save America Act will provide us with just that. And where's the Save America Act right now? It passed the House, now it's in the Senate, and it requires the Senate to actually vote on it, to bring it to the floor for a vote. And you have Senate Republicans that are actually holding up this same bill. And here we have Steve Scalise actually urging the Senate to actually bring the bill on the floor for a vote. Take a look at this.
If you want to prevent voter fraud, we have got to get the Save America Act to President Trump's desk. We passed it to the House. It's in the Senate. They have got to find a way to get that bill to President Trump's desk if you want to have fair and free elections.
So the House Republicans, they actually did their job and they passed this bill. Now it's in the Senate and it's been in there for months, which is why the president is becoming so frustrated, which is why the president is making this move. Because for some reason, Senate Republicans are afraid to bring this bill for a vote using the talking filibuster. Because right now they're using the silent filibuster. And what the talking filibuster is, basically where senators would try to oppose the bill, but they would have to be on the floor speaking. And as long as they're there speaking, then they cannot vote on the bill unless they get a 2/3 vote to break the talking filibuster. And that is the true filibuster, because the filibuster that they're using right now is a silent filibuster, where the bill isn't on the floor for a vote or anything like that. It's not being debated, where senators signify that they will filibuster the bill, that they will block the bill, so the majority leader just doesn't bring the bill to the floor for a vote, because they're afraid Democrats will actually block the bill. And here we have a list of Republicans that actually supports the talking filibuster and the ones that actually oppose the talking filibuster. Take a look.
Have come out in support of the talking filibuster. And just last night, Senator Roger Marshall's office responded to our producers late in the evening saying, quote, "We should explore every possible avenue to get the Save America Act passed into law. If that means utilizing the talking filibuster, he supports it." And then there are 7 senators who have either expressed skepticism or have outright rejected using the talking.
So as I mentioned before, Senate Republicans are actually holding up this bill, and they need to bring this bill on the floor for a vote using the talking filibuster, because that is the original filibuster. Because it doesn't make sense for the American people to want a legislation, but you're not even bringing it on the floor for a vote. That is what the American people elected you for. And now is the perfect time for you to pass the Save America Act, because for one, the Republicans, they control the House, the Senate, and the White House. And here we have Mike Lee talking about this very same advantage that Republicans have. Take a look.
The talking filibuster, I do believe they will nuke it. But regardless, Kayleigh, we have the majority in the Senate now, along with the House majority and with the White House. We don't know how long that will continue. But we know that there is a chance that a year from now, things will be different. So let's give it a shot now, and particularly since this regards election security and our ability to win a fair election may well depend on passage of the Save America Act. Why would we waste any time? Even if there are other legislative priorities we want to tackle, why not deal with this first, knowing that it's going to take some time and knowing how important it is to maintain the president's agenda and the congressional minorities in Republican hands. The congressional majorities need to not turn into minorities. And that's exactly why we've got to do this and pass the Save America Act.
And 80% of the American public supports it.
All I'm saying is that the American people, they want secure election. They deserve secure election. And Senate Republicans, they need to get to work and get this bill passed. The American people want it. The public want it. Democrats, Republicans, everyone wants it. And here we have Senator John Thune. He was asked about this. He was asked about using the talking filibuster, and this is his response. Take a look.
What's your message to the Republicans in your conference who are pushing over and over again that you can do this with the talking filibuster?
Well, there are a couple things about that. One is, once we get on, if we were to go down that path, it's very hard to pivot and get back to open up the government. I frankly think we ought to. We need a deal, make sure that DHS, TSA, Coast Guard, FEMA, all those agencies are funded. And so I'm hopeful there will be a breakthrough on that. That's going to require some, obviously cooperation from the Democrats, which we haven't seen a lot of so far. But we want to get to the SAVE Act. We also, as I mentioned, we've got a housing bill that we can pivot back and forth to if we get a deal to open up the government. That's harder to do once you're in the throes of a talking filibuster. The talking filibuster issue is one on which there is not certainly a unified Republican conference, and there would have to be. If you go down that path, you're talking about the need to table what are going to be numerous amendments and an ability to keep 50 Republicans unified pretty much on every single vote. And there isn't support for doing that at this point. As I've said, and we will get on it, and we will have a vote on the SAVE Act. The context of that, the process in which we consider it is still an open question.
So I didn't see a straight answer from the senator right there. But I do agree with him. We do need to open up the government, because there are people that works at TSA and all these other agencies over at DHS that are not being paid. But at the same time, we need to pass the Save America Act. It is what the American people want. And quite frankly, I think the senator is stalling. I think every time he's asked about the Save America Act, he comes up with a different excuse, because it's been in the Senate for months. And that brings us to the end of today's show. Please let me know in the comment section below. Do you think Senate Republicans should have a vote on the Save America Act? Also, please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribing. Thank you.